So have you used OpenAI yet?
Oh, yes. Yeah, oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I was blown away by it. ChatGPT.
Okay, cool. Me too. I write emails with it. I write social posts. I write, I was on a podcast and I was like, oh, you got to read this book. And they were like, what's that book about? And I went in there and I was like, give me the 3 things on that book again. Cause it's been a couple of years since I read it. And it's like, here's the 3 things on that book, boom, 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 boom. I show it to my kids. My kids are using it on all of their homework. Writing a paper outside of a class setting will never happen again. Like, it's done. Welcome to another episode of Dental Rift. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I am the CEO of SMC National, where we provide predictable new patient flow for dental offices just like yours.
I am Tanner Applegate, the CEO and founder of Unified Dental. We are a single sign-on solution to make your world a lot less complicated with all those different logins and platforms that you guys have to use in your dental office every day.
Love that. Love that. I love it. Every time you get a little bit better and a little more precise on that. So today we got some juicy stuff that I'm really excited about. And actually, I just landed, Tanner, for a future episode that we're going to be dropping soon, someone from the insurance industry, dental insurance specifically. And they said, hey, I got a lot of information on dental insurance and I want to come on and talk about it and maybe even argue with you guys a little bit because he had
awesome.
some interesting perspective. So everybody kind of beats up on dental insurance, but dental insurance never actually speaks for themselves, like ever.
We don't get the representation.
No. So he said he's willing to come on. So I'm excited about that. And then I also have an article that I found about TikTok and is it ethical to use TikTok in a dental office? And then I know you have a topic about Dr. Workman from Heartland starting a dental school, and how does that work, right? Like, you're the biggest DSO and you also have dental schools, so you're basically building your own farm system, which sounds really smart. But I know you have some interesting opinions on that. But before we jump into that, I want to get our top. You actually texted me and said, Gary, have your top 2023 predictions ready. And I would love to hear first, what you're thinking. What's going to happen next year in the dental industry?
Yeah, it's funny. I think that we reflect back on 2022. I think there's definitely a trend of topics that we hit on multiple times, multiple episodes, and they kind of progress. And we just saw how it evolved over the year. In this same conversation at the end of next year, I want to just kind of project and say, hey, what are those topics that we've talked about multiple times throughout the year? Like, what are those hot topics? So I'm curious to know and maybe I'll say one, you say one. Let's go down our list and kind of see what are those hottest topics that we're projecting will be an issue in 23.
Yeah. So, okay. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah. So the first one that I put obviously is just going to be profitability in general. And it's a huge emphasis, I think, on the other ones. How do we make each individual in each individual office more profitable? I think there's going to be a tightening down on expenditures in the office in general.
So what is that? What's going to be the backlash from that? You think people are going to get laid off? Do you think people are going to start servicing different? Like, what's the backlash of people doing that, offices focusing on that?
I don't think it's necessarily a backlash. I mean, what's going to end up happening is the rest of my other topics that I think that we'll chat about in 2023 is how do you get it? But I think it ultimately reigns supreme on profitability. We'll talk about how do you get to profitability in these other ones, which I think are going to be the main reasons of how you get to that quote unquote backlash.
So I'm gonna counter that, right, and give the opposite of that. I think that culture is going to be talked about a lot less next year. Company culture.
Interesting.
It's just not going to be.
That's not what I would have guessed for you.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that that's what I predict is going to happen, and here's why. So why have we heard about culture over the last 2 years? Well, the reason for that is because people couldn't keep their employees. That's it at the core, right? It's not actually a hiring thing because you can kind of fake culture or give incentives to get people to come in and employ them. It was because people couldn't retain their team members and people were bouncing to other places because of pay. They could make a lot more money. And plus, it wasn't the greatest place in the world to work at this particular dental office. So what I predict is going to happen is if we have this recession, and if we have this profit focus because offices are making less money because people are spending less money at the dental office now, we talked about that last week, then what's going to happen is you're going to hear less about culture because the retention is going to be higher. You're not going to have as big of a focus on it. And it's going to kind of go back to what it was kind of pre-COVID, where you know what, if I want to hire somebody, I'm going to have longer lines, I'm going to have more applicants, I'm going to have more opportunities to hire somebody, so people are going to be less likely to jump jobs. That's my prediction if the economy does what we think it's going to do.
Yep, I agree. And I agree with that one. All right, my second one, my hottest trend of 2023 is that I think that you're going to start hearing, and this is awesome for you, but I think you're going to start hearing a lot about marketing and how do I get more patients in because my patients aren't coming in.
Bro, that's mine. So you can't take
no,
mine.
Sorry, beat you.
All right, so I'll reframe it. So 2023 is going to be the year of the marketer. And how I'm going to frame this is either the marketer is going to be the heel or they're going to be the hero. One of the two, okay. Heel or hero. And here's why. And I literally just got off a podcast talking about this with somebody. So dental offices are going to be making less money overall per patient. Patients are going to be spending less. We saw the ADA study that we talked about last week, and patients are not going to prioritize dental work. So what does that mean? You're going to have to your growth or just maintaining where you're at as a business has to come through marketing. So you're going to go over to your marketing department, you're going to march over there and you're going to say, all right, that marketing system you've been working on the last 2 years that we haven't really invested in, and we don't really, it's just you, or it's just, this 2-man team or whatever. We need you to turn it on now. And they're going to say, okay, we're going to turn it on and pull the lever, and you're going to put money towards it because that's what you're told to do. Go spend money on marketing. That's the only way to grow right now. And it's not going to work. Nothing's going to happen. And then they're going to fire that marketing person. That's option number one. The other option is you're going to pull the lever. It's going to work. Patients are going to grow. You're going to at least maintain, if not grow. And you're going to say, yay, marketing, you did a good job. So that's the tale of the marketing being the hero or the heel in 2023.
Interesting. Okay, so here's my third. I think that we're going to see a big shift in the lending and financing landscape in dental. And I think that shift is going to be, there's a lot less lending in the debt markets, and it's going to shift more to the equity markets. So I think that So
what does that mean? Explain that in simple terms for me, what that means, money-wise.
Yeah. So right now, if I'm an emerging group, I can go out and I can get debt capital, right? So from a bank, I can go get money from a bank to go and buy dental offices. It comes with an interest rate. As long as I pay back those interest rates, it's fine. And that's the cheapest way to go because I don't have to give up any of my business, right? And now what I think is the banks are going to start tightening up their willingness to lend, even though, again, dental has historically been a pretty safe industry to invest in. I think banks are just in general going to tighten up their willingness to lend. And what's going to end up happening is PE, private equity, is not going to have a place to put a lot of capital because other industries are going to be hurting, that they're going to see the recession proof of dentistry, and it's going to come flooding in more. So these people that are out there looking to grow, instead of being able to go to banks, are now going to have to turn to equity lenders, which are PE partners. Okay, so if you're not willing to come on to PE, I don't think that you're going to be able to grow as much over the next year. And what that also, I think, means is those that are PE backed are going to want to get more aggressive in this landscape because of the opportunities that they have where other people aren't able to buy as much because debt capital isn't as available.
Wow.
I honestly, here's my prediction, my shot. Top 10 DSOs in the US, I think that you'll see 2 of them merge at least in the next year.
Okay. Do you have inside information, or is that just your prediction?
That's my prediction.
Okay, cool.
No inside information on it.
Okay, cool. So, all right, my last one. AI is going to have some kind of impact on the dental industry, for real. Not oh yeah, it's coming. I don't know. Like? Yeah, so I don't know exactly. I think it's going to be on the X-rays and treatment side. But here's why I'm making this prediction, because I don't actually know how it's going to play out in the dental side. I have some thoughts, but this is just why I feel this way. So have you used OpenAI yet?
Oh, yes. Yeah, oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. Okay. I was blown away by it. ChatGPT.
Okay, cool. Me too. So OpenAI is drastically changed the way I look at things, right? I get on there, I use it every single day, multiple times a day. I write emails with it. I write social posts. I write, I was on a podcast and I was like, oh, you got to read this book. And they were like, what's that book about? And I went in there and I was like, give me the 3 things on that book again, because it's been a couple years since I read it. And it's like, here's the 3 things on that book, boom, 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 boom. I show it to my
It's more
kids. My
powerful
kids
than
are using
Google.
it on all of their homework, all their papers. Like, you'll never writing a paper outside of a class setting will never happen again. Like, it's done. Like, you don't need to write papers anymore. You have a thing that will write the papers for you, and you adjust it a little bit. So AI is gonna literally, as of a month ago or 2 months ago, when OpenAI really started catching traction, is literally changing education. Like, how I view education now is like, you need to be working on how to make people more creative. You need to be working on how to make better critical decisions, things like that, right? Because I don't need to memorize the presidents anymore. I can pull it up on my phone. I don't need to be able to write a paper. I can use this and adjust it, right? So it's already, AI just like overnight was able to change a lot of things very, very quickly. And let me give you another one. I'll give you another example, because I think this is important for people to understand and kind of bridge this concept of the impact it's going to have. So right now I can go into OpenAI and I can type in, give me a 5-minute video script on the economic crash of 2008 and how it impacted the dental industry. It'll write me a 5-minute video script. I can take that script and load it into another site, and it can give me a voiceover, a realistic voiceover. So now I have a voice. Then I can put it into another site and say, give me B-roll to match the video B-roll. So like panning cameras. So give me a video B-roll to match this script. And then I have a video that I can load into YouTube that's an educational video. So what this means is, in the very near future, you're going to be able to do that on one site. You're going to be able to type in, make me a video about this that's 10 minutes long. And then it'll have the B-roll, it'll have the voice, it'll have everything all rolled up into one. And it'll all be robot. Because we have unlimited access to information, we just can't. Now we're just learning how to have machines calibrate it for us, right? So that's AI. It's going to happen in dental. Like, it has to happen in dental. Now, where I think it's going to happen first, and we've actually had guests on that kind of help me understand this, the insurance companies are going to start knocking it out of the park with this. And they're going to start slapping people. So you're going to get people in the insurance industry that are going to be like, nope, rejected on little things that you're not used to getting rejected. And they're going to say, why'd you reject this? And it's just like, oh, our AI just rejected it. Where before they'd have to use a human to do it. And so and you're going to notice this pick up, because it's just going to be machines doing it. And it's going to make total sense for the dental insurance companies to do it. So they're going to be first movers. Then the practices, by now, instead of playing offense, they're going to have to play defense. So I think that's going to happen this year. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it happens next year, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's a 24 thing. If I were to personally guess, I think that, yes, there is AI. AI has already existed in, like you said, like the clinical side of things, but it hasn't had a ton of immediate change impact on how businesses use it, right? But I do see a lot of AI coming out right now in insurance billing process, not just like is it approved or not, but also in the process of like creating claims, verifying benefits, etc. And I think that is going to happen. I don't think that 1 year is enough time, though, to shift it big in the industry.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. My fourth one is, I think data accessibility is going to be a hot topic that we'll reflect back on and say this is something that we chatted about a lot in 2023. With profitability being an issue, people are going to want to button down everything that they can. And if they can't get details into what to button down, it will be an issue.
Yeah. So how's that going to, so roll that out for me. So you're DSO and you're like, all right, profitability, we need to drill down on this. What happens there?
I think it'll be the year. Well, I think it'll be a positive year for the BI or the data analytics platforms, right? Dental Intels, the Jarvises, et cetera. And I think, though, that what they're going to get is they're going to start getting pressure that it's still not enough, right? Like, yes, you can go in and operationally fix these things. And you can even, like, using SMC's tools, you can come in and marketing fix things. But there's still a lot of other aspects of the dental office that you don't have data insight into. So whether those would be people upcoming and building it, which I don't think will be fast enough for 1 year, but I think that what will end up happening is like demands for access to certain type of information will then put pressure on the PMS, that the PMSs are going to start having to start fixing their data accessibility. So whether that be things like improving their APIs, making things more open and available, I think this is the year where we start seeing a lot of pressure on that. And I put a post about that, and I was amazed at the number of third-party companies that were reaching out that are just like, yes, I'm on this bandwagon. How do we make this happen? So I think it's starting to boil enough. It just needs to have a catalyst to actually boil over and make it happen.
Wow. Interesting. I love it. Great stuff. All right, let's talk about the Workman School.
This is one thing that I found very interesting. I just wanted to throw it out there. I don't exactly have a ton of opinions one way or another on it, but what happened was Rick Workman, right, the CEO and founder, or not CEO, he's not CEO anymore, but the founder and chairman of the board for Heartland, he donated $32 million to a local university to create a dental school at that university. And the dental school's name is Workman School of Dental Medicine.
Very subtle.
Right? So
very subtle.
Find it very subtle. You don't know who put the money in for that. I find it fascinating, right? Like, I just wanted to kind of chat with you about it. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Heartland Dental School would have been another second name.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably was the alias.
Okay, so
what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the fact that founder of the largest DSO is now creating a dental school?
Honestly, that's if you came to me and you're like, "Hey, Gary, you're growing your DSO and you can't get enough dentists. How do you fix this?" Well, how much money do we have? Just pretend we have infinite money. I'd start making schools and then start recruiting for those schools to fill them up and tell them how great the industry of dental is. That's how I'd fix it. So from business,
what about the ethical?
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Repercussions of this. Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk through that. Tell me why. So I just still manned on why it's a great business idea, right?
Business.
It's a logical. It's not even a great business idea. It's the most logical business idea. Like, this is the next logical step. If you can't get the things that you want, you have to learn how to make the things that you want, right? Elon Musk did the same thing with Tesla. They couldn't get the batteries to make the cars affordable enough, so he learned how to make batteries and how to get all the materials and lower the cost himself because the other people couldn't do it. So that's just what you do. But what are the ethical problems? Like, why wouldn't I be able to do that?
It goes back to, again, that conversation that we've had multiple times now of what is the ethical bounds of what's okay and not okay, right? Like, there's a lot of times where we go and hire doctors, and Heartland is heavy in the Denver market. And so we'll have people that'll leave and they're just like, yeah, I'm leaving because there's a lot of things I didn't like about it, where and again, this is an individual person's perspective. It doesn't reflect on the entire aspect of the company, but they would just be like, yeah, I don't like the way that they clinically asked me to treat. I didn't feel like it was ethical. Right. And that was because they have, in their mind, through all of their years of experience, determined what is ethical and what is not ethical. And now all of a sudden, where that not ethical bound may have come from may have been their schooling and what was influenced during the schooling. So if you start at the very beginning, day one, when they're starting to determine what is ethical and not ethical, it could be, I'm not saying that it is happening, but it could be that all of a sudden this Workman School of Medicine is taking it to the far end extreme of this is what is ethical. And now all of a sudden when they leave, like, everyone's going to kind of sway one way or another on it. But I have a feeling that you start off in school, and this is kind of based off a lot of the relationships I've built over the years. You start off with the school in the extreme of the most ethical, right? Like, they're pounding you what is the most ethical. And then you slowly start to kind of say, okay, this is where I fall in this line. I'm not completely unethical, but I feel like this is ethical. So if this dental school is saying this is the most ethical, and it's actually very highly like on the border towards unethical, I'm not saying it's in the unethical range, right? Now, when all of a sudden people start shifting, who's to say that the industry is starting to shift in a way that is kind of across the board unethical, but from the perspective that this individual has in their years of experience in schooling and now in work, who's to say that they're not shifting into this unethical bound?
Yeah. So you're saying, if I hear you correctly, you can tell me if I'm incorrect. What you're saying is that if you're a part of every step of the process of making the sausage, if you raise the pigs, feed the pigs, slaughter the pigs, package the pigs, sell the pig, distribute the pigs, sell the pigs, and then you start making advertising on why the sausage is so good and so healthy and so helpful. there starts to become a conflict of interest because you are so reaching. Is that kind of what you're saying? Because I see
Conflict
that
of interest is the core of it for sure. I don't know if the analogy fits perfectly, but yes, I agree
well,
with conflict of interest.
Well, here's why I brought that analogy up is because I see the same thing happening with Amazon now. So everybody loves Amazon until you don't love Amazon anymore, right? And so I just saw somebody, they were like, Amazon just put me out of business. And it was like direct, it was like print, it was like a direct to print business, right? So you have all these local printers, and I didn't even watch the whole video, but it was just this guy was talking about Amazon just put me out of business and put a lot of other people out of business just like that. And they start to be able to do that because they own everything. They own every part of the process, and they even start making their own products, right? Amazon makes their own batteries and their own garbage bags, and so they know exactly how to market everything. And that's awesome because it's like, yeah, I can get my batteries for cheaper, until it's not awesome anymore, and because they put everybody else out of business and they raise the price of batteries. So that's why I was using that analogy of like making the sausage. That's what my brain goes to is Amazon.
Yeah, no, and I see that in Amazon. Amazon's, I'm trying to think of a good equivalent like industry, but really it's like any highly regulated industry, right? There is a ethical mark of like, okay, if you cross this bound, eventually you can get kind of hand slapped. But Amazon, like, to me, that's just kind of like, it is capitalism, but it's not the same as like if you were to go in and unethically practice as like a doctor or a lawyer or anything that's kind of regulated, right? There are bounds that are established where it's like ethical and unethical.
I think FTX would be a good example then, because FTX, who just collapsed, the cryptocurrency platform that just collapsed, they were taking the profits. They were actually stealing money from the people that were putting money into the crypto, and then they were paying politicians. They donated like the most money to politicians, and they got in bed with the politicians, and they were actually starting to set a lot of the regulation for the crypto industry to protect themselves. Now, they didn't move fast enough. They waited too long, and that's a whole separate subject. But that is that more a better analogy?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably more of the lines. I mean, and it's not. FTX is one that just unfortunately ended up blowing up in their face, all of the different things that they were doing that was kind of unethical. But the reality is like, even going back to your Amazon example, you can guarantee Amazon is going in and influencing legislation that is always in their favor, right? And so I don't think that is different, but to me, I think it just goes back to that, like, you have a license, you have like a Hippocratic oath type of stuff, right? Like, I don't know, it feels different to me than like just like a business setting. And maybe that's me and my own personal, like where I fall within the ethical and unethical realm. It's fascinating. I'm interested to see how it plays out. And I'm interested too, if anybody like does have a strong opinion about this and has especially those that are clinicians, have a strong opinion about why this is a unethical thing and it shouldn't happen, reach out to us. We'd love to have you on and chat more about it. To me, it was just, I still don't know quite what to think about it, but it was fascinating to me that it was happening.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm surprised it hasn't happened earlier with the amount of money that are in these bigger DSOs. Like,
I know that there's a lot of DSOs that have influence in schools, but not to the point where they are the genesis of the school being created.
Yeah. Okay, I got another ethical question for you. What are the ethical considerations of using video social media platforms such as TikTok in your dental practice? So this headline caught my eye from the ADA, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, is it from a HIPAA standpoint, right? Like, I'm not showing your patients, and that's not actually what the article is about. What the article is about was a dentist actually raised this question. They said, I go on TikTok, and I see all these dentists on TikTok, and these dentists on TikTok people are asking them questions, patients are asking them questions, and they're giving them generic dental advice that is not just like brush your teeth and floss. You know what I mean? It's more specific. And is that ethical to be going online and giving dental advice when you don't actually know what's going on with the patient that then other people are going to act on? Is that ethical? And I was just like, wow, that is a really good question. And I can totally see why that might be a problem.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's dig into this. My initial gut to that is, yes, I think that's fine. Right. It's the same thing as like when I go and Google my symptoms on Google,
Oh,
I'm
that's the
getting
worst thing.
generic advice and I'm going to do whatever I want with that. But I'm not going to go and shut down Google because of the fact that I found my own information about it. Right now, there's an individual behind this that is, to me, honestly, I feel like it's better than just like what is available right now is the least this person can say to you. But hey, I highly emphasize go and make sure that you're talking to your own dentist.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Well,
don't know if he is or isn't. If he's not, I think that's an issue. But
first of all,
yeah,
I
so I
am
think that it's totally
I'm
fine.
literally, I do not Google symptoms anymore because every time I'm the type of person when I'm like, oh, my side hurts. Why does my right side hurts? Oh, because your kidney on your left side. And I'm like, oh, my kidney on my left. And I literally start feeling all the pains and it always ends badly. So I don't ever do that. But that's a lot different than the dentist. Googling is a lot different than the dentist giving advice to people of like, oh, here's how to deal with that problem. And again, when you give generic advice that's universal, that's where I think people get in trouble.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what kind of advice he's giving, right? It's like, hey, I've got this pain in my mouth, and he's like, oh, just take this and it'll reduce the pain. Like, that's a huge red flag to me because that pain is an indicator of a bigger problem. And if he's not saying go in and get it checked out, like totally, I can see that being unethical. But
Yeah,
if
so
he's saying like, go
here's
and
the
get it checked
question.
out,
Some of my colleagues are using social media platforms like TikTok to create short videos to appeal to a larger patient population, to build their practice base, and to educate patients. Some of these videos can be shared in the form of duets, whereby other dentists can opine on the post. Okay, so you can take, someone can
that's
say
good.
here, yeah, right? So if one dentist posts a video of their treatments, a second dentist can repost the video and comment if the feature is enabled by the content creator, given their professional opinion, without the full knowledge of the patient's dental history, consent, or specific case details. These TikTok dentists are providing generalized treatment recommendations and have no specifics of the patient in question. I do not want to be left behind, but I wonder what ethical considerations of this social media platform are in the world of modern dentistry.
So they come in, they do some work, and they take that work and then they show it off on TikTok. And somebody else comes in and opines on that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely can see that being an issue, right? In my mind, it was like someone leaves a comment and says, hey, what do I do about this? They create a video around that comment, says, here's my answer, right? Like that's generic advice. But to go in and say, hey, this is the treatment that I did for this patient. Yes, I don't think that other people should be opining on that because even they could be completely correct where like this opinion, like the person that did it maybe is wrong, but I don't think that that's necessarily, they don't have enough information as that person said to opine on that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So
that is fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't seen that on TikTok.
Me neither, but I'm sure that it exists. So here's how
especially in the all in four world, which I know we're going to hopefully talk about soon.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Okay, cool. So the ADA, here's how they responded. They basically gave the code of ethics, the ADA code of ethics. So they outlined it.
Okay.
There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 codes of ethics that they have, and they're like, just make sure you follow these. Basically, this is way more complicated than that, but that's basically what the end result was. So I'm curious if the audience knows what the 5 pillars of the code ADA code section is. So number 1 is patient autonomy. So basically meaning don't share the patient's information if they don't want to be public, if they haven't given you permission to make it public, don't make it public. Or at least, hide it. Don't create a situation where people can figure out who you're talking about. Section number 2 is do no harm. Okay, that one's do good. Next one, section 3 is do good. Okay, easy. Number 4 is fairness, and number 5 is truthfulness. So I'm like, okay.
Wasn't really an answer to.
Exactly.
What'd you get out of that?
Yeah, those are all good things. We shouldn't lie and we should tell the truth and stuff like that.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it doesn't really help, right? There was a quote in here. said public health is served by paying urgent attention to potential health related implication and opportunities of TikTok and suggestions of research and agenda to inform decision makers, blah, 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 blah. So basically it's like figure it out on your own.
I'm of the opinion that it's all cool as long as you're not sitting there. I think the problem is that the people that get views are the extremists, right? That's how you get views and TikToks. And if the extremists are the ones that are just saying these ridiculously like unfounded and like unethical things just to get views, that's a problem.
Yeah. So
right?
The thing with TikTok,
I'm a licensed dentist and I have approved that you no longer need to brush. Like, okay, you're going to blow up on that, but that doesn't mean that that's what it should be blowing up on.
Well, so that's the part that I don't think people understand about TikTok and short form video too, is that literally you have to have a salacious hook. People do not watch your video. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how good looking you are, how whatever. Like if you don't have a good hook, people don't watch your video. And so you end up, what it does is it forces you. It forces you to find the extreme in the hook. Like, how do I say this in the most extreme way? And then you have 45 seconds to explain the rest. But the hook is everything. So that's why TikTok has wild stuff on it, is because, and then it spills over into all the other short platforms, is people have figured out, how do I blow people's minds and make them really uncomfortable? And then how do I reel them back in? And it's just, you take any subject and you just say, ask a crazy question around it or something to hook them in. So that's part of the problem here too, I think.
And I've gone in purposely trying to get into dental talk, and it's barren. Like, it is not there. There are people that'll go on and be like, here's a dental review. And they're like walking through Costco and they're like, which mouthwash is better? And they'll talk about, oh, I approve this one, right? And that's fine. Like, I think those get a decent amount of reviews just because people are curious. But I'm surprised at the amount of, or the lack of dental content on TikTok. And I've always kind of thought, how do we fill that void? But I'm not a clinician, so it's not like I can fill the dental void, but it is fascinating. I know that you're on it, but you're on it. I'm curious why you purposely chose your angle on TikTok to not be dental related. Is it just because you want to appeal to a broader audience?
No, I wasn't pre-COVID. I wasn't on social media at all. And then during COVID, I had some spare time, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get on social media. I want to see if I can grow this, and really, make a social media account. And I want to do it somewhere that it's not going to have an impact on my dental clients and on the people that are future dental clients. And TikTok was where to go because there wasn't a lot of dentists on there. So I knew I could go over there, say whatever I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and it wouldn't confuse people or what's Gary doing? You know what I mean? So that's why I started on TikTok. So now if
you want to hear the true behind the scenes of Gary Bird, go find his TikTok.
Yeah, my old TikToks. Now I just basically talk about business. And so my strategy there is I am the tip of the spear of SMC's marketing. So I talk about things that I'm interested in, which is entrepreneurship, leadership, culture, marketing, and dentists all deal with that, right? So there's a correlation that anybody who's growing a dental organization is going to go, yeah, growing a business is hard. Growing, culture is hard. How do you deal, with those things? So that's kind of the tip of the spear. So yeah, we're actually going to roll out. Okay, this is really cool. Actually, I feel like I should save this for the next episode. Yeah, I'll save this for the next episode.
Leaving the cliffhanger.
Thanks, man.
Tune in next time when Gary Bird